my name is Julian Plord. I am the AdPR Connection co-chair along with Sarah Bala. So I'm moderating today's panel. This panel is Building Your Brand, and so our panelists will inform students on what makes an eye-catching portfolio and how to stand out amongst the crowd when it comes to interviewing, networking, and landing your dream job. So I will introduce all our professionals and then ask them to talk a little bit about themselves. So we have Paul Chambers with AT&T, Vince Thompson with Melt, and Davia Lassiter with Georgia Department of Community Affairs. So Paul, would you like to start?
I'd be happy to, and thank you, by the way, Julianne, for starting on time. I always love the saying, the meeting that never starts, never ends. So it's always important to start on time. I'm Paul Chambers, and I grew up in Athens, graduated from Clark Central back when dinosaurs were still trotting along Millage Avenue in 1977, and went to the University of Georgia and became a Grady grad in 1981. Now, to put it in football terms, I tell people that my freshman year at Georgia was Coach Dooley's one and only losing season in 25 years. His one and only national championship was my senior year. So I went out with a bang. I was a senior when Herschel Walker was a freshman, and we had a great time. From there, I went into the radio business. People told me I had the perfect face for radio, so that's what I did for 3 years. And then in 1986, I went to work for what at the time was Southern Bell, and customer service became Bell South, and today is AT&T. My job is to represent AT&T in the 35 county Northeast Georgia region. And that is with elected officials, organizations, economic development groups, nonprofits, to manage community interest and awareness of AT&T and what we're doing in their community. So that may be more than you wanted about me. I will say this also, I have 4 children, 2 of which have attended the University of Georgia. In fact, the last one, Chip, graduated last year. He was a guy that danced down on the sidelines. He was the mic man that was homecoming king a couple years ago. Some of y'all may remember Chip. And my oldest daughter, Katie, actually graduated pharmacy school. So long ties, met my wife there on a blind date at Georgia. And so a lot of connections at UGA, and happy to be part of this today.
Awesome, thank you. Davia?
Hi, everyone. And again, thank you for having me. I'm Davia Rose Lassiter, and I am a 2006 Grady grad. I earned my master's degree in journalism and mass comm a long time ago. And as they have said, I am the marketing and communications director for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And I've worked in journalism since 2006. Once I completed my master's, I took an internship and began freelancing shortly after that. And so throughout my career, I've checked quite a bit of boxes, from magazine editor, newspaper editor, copywriter, copy designer, PR specialist, marketing manager. Yes, I'm reading off of a list, social media specialist, copywriter. So a little bit of everything, but all of those experiences helped me to be ready to take on the role of a marketing director, which we'll get into later on in today's panel. So aside from work, I'm also a part-time PhD student studying public communications at Georgia State University. So that's a lot of fun. It really is. And I'm also a small business owner. I have a business called The Lassiter Firm. You can find me at thelassiterfirm.com, Lassiter just like my last name. And we provide services such as resume writing, cover letters, portfolio designs, just to help people, get a foot in the door when it comes to their careers. And when I'm not reading or running a business, I love to volunteer. And I'm also a personal assistant to my dog, Cookie. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Vince?
Hey, Julianne, thank you so much. Paul, Dalia, impressive. Nice to meet you. Thank you for always allowing me the opportunity. I'm originally an Auburn guy, so I'm a little outsider here today. Don't hold it against me. However, my son, Carter, is a sophomore at Georgia, majoring in business and finance, and he's a Sigma Nu. He's actually here today with another one of the fraternity brothers doing a little work, but helping students is my labor of love. I'm CEO of Melt. It's one of the largest sports marketing agencies in the country. We've represented the Coca-Cola company for 20 years, managed tens of millions of dollars of their sponsorship. Aflac's another big one. Obviously, it's interesting times in college athletics right now. Very close to Greg McGarity, do a lot of work over at Georgia, actually on a sports marketing advisory panel over there. But my labor of love of how I got through Auburn University was working through sports information for 4 years. I went to school to be a sports writer from a very small town in Alabama. Fortuitously, my first guest lecturer in my first journalism class was the head of sports PR. Wound up working my way through 4 years and went on this amazing journey of falling in love with the business of college sports and sports marketing and student athletes. And so through that, over time, started lecturing on many, many campuses across the country on career development, and then what I see successful job seekers do to gain that first job, particularly now in a COVID environment, it's going to be even tougher. But over time, I started getting all these solicitations and resumes for our intern program. And every summer we would get up to about 500 resumes. We've had tremendous University of Georgia grads. We had a brand new alumni, Melt U alumni success stories, hiring left and right. But this summer we were about to take 40 kids and 50 great speakers from our clients and sports and media executives and field trips and tours and capstone with Coca-Cola. And everything hit the fan in mid-March. And a lot of students said, please continue to do something for us. So we took our program virtual, and we have over 1,500 students across the country in the program. I personally hosted 60 career podcasts on career development. We have a weekly career tips newsletter. We're starting a masterclass video series on this. And then Julianne is perfect segue. My new book is about building your personal brand to land your first job, is out in mid-November and available for free sale. So I'm my passion is because of the great opportunity I had from mentors, and I made a commitment to myself, if I ever could give back to the next generation of students and marketers and impact their lives, I would. And so we've been doing our program now. This is our 15th year, but I had always wanted to share it virtually with the world. So I'm always honored to be a part of any esteemed panel and help students.
Awesome, thank you. How suiting that you're on this panel, right, with your book.
Right.
Perfect. Well, we have, as everyone can tell, we have very impressive professionals. So I think we should start with the questions. So our first question that we have today is, how did you personally build your brand, and did that process change as you grew into your career?
All I've got to say is I'm on a panel with somebody who's written a book and mentored hundreds or thousands, somebody who's working on a PhD. I'm just a lowly end of the career guy. So y'all take first shot at that, and I'll clean up.
Davia, go ahead.
Well, I would say, Paul, you're amazing. You're amazing. Start there. So for me, I started mentally. So I thought about my goals and just the different boxes that I wanted to check along the way. But I was also really open to adding boxes to my list, not being so rigid in like what I wanted to do, because what I wanted to do versus what I do now, two separate things, and that's totally okay. I never thought I would be a marketing and communications director, much less an award-winning marketing and communication director. But I worked really hard and also just really maintained my integrity. People who have worked with me, whether I've been on their team or who have reported to me, they know how I work. They know I'm a hard worker. They know that my expectations reflect how I work. I would never tell somebody or expect somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So I also learned as much as I could, just to have the ability to diversify my skill set. And I looked at everything as a learning opportunity. I never thought I wanted to work at a newspaper coming in at 4:30 and leaving at 3:30. But I did that, and I learned a lot of skills along the way. And that was 4:30 p.m., 3:30 a.m. Yeah. But I also made sure to collect my clips. So I kept a portfolio, hard copy, transitioned to PDFs, and now I have OneDrive. So technology has changed along the way for me. But I've been very consistent, but I'm always prepared. Some of the best advice, or one piece of advice that someone gave me, is to always have my resume ready. So I used to keep a hard copy of my resume in my vehicle. Now, I have a multitude of Apple devices and I have my OneDrive, so I can email it right now. But so part of your brand is just working hard, maintaining your integrity, but always being ready, because when you're always ready, you don't have to worry about being ready. So that's my answer.
No, I think that's great. And I'll echo what she said, is that, building your brand is kind of one block at a time. It's ever evolving. But I always encourage students to begin looking at themselves as a brand right now. Pick people you admire, such as our panel, pick brands you admire, and then begin building your brand architecture, or your brand lens, or your filter. The first thing is always stay true to who you are, stay true to your passion, build an authentic brand, stay true to your values, but then begin looking at every step that you take as the brand building process. And I'll echo what Davia said, is that every form of communication you have now in a social environment, resume environment, LinkedIn environment, even the images that you post, all goes into the building blocks of your brand, which leads to the audition that we're all constantly under, which leads to an outcome, which ostensibly, if you're a college student, the outcome of your investment, all the time and money, is the outcome is a professional job. But the competition is going to be brutal. So everything that you do has got to be stay true to the brand. But I encourage all the students to sort of step back and step yourself out of your body and say, all right, who am I as a brand? What do I stand for? What's authentic? What are my values stand for? Do I have a vision or destination board? What's my mission of my brand? And then you begin packaging all of that through the social and media environment, LinkedIn and all that. In the old days, we had to have hard copies of resumes. We had to carry our portfolio of articles around. And so you as students possess all these amazing tools in the palm of your hand, but that's also a double-edged sword. But also be flexible in the evolution of your brand and the evolution of your thought process of your brand, because as all of our panelists will tell you, life is not linear, and you're going to get thrown off the saddle a million times. And particularly all of the environment that we're in now, we're here to help you, because it's going to be, the entry-level job market is going to be twice as brutal, based on the fact that so many other people are unemployed in the marketing services, that they'll be fighting for entry-level jobs just to get themselves back into the game. And so my mission is always to equip, you, and Davi hit on another big point, always be prepared. Always be prepared for the questions. Know your target. Look for, research all the company, the job, how you bring value to that. Because we're looking at making thousands of dollars decisions, investing in you. We need to, every step you take is an audition for how you're going to become a future employee.
Well said by both of these, and hard work, knowing your audience is something else you always hear about in public speaking. If you're in journalism school, hopefully you've had one of those classes, but always know who you're sitting in front of or you're trying to appeal to. I go back to my son Chip, who I mentioned graduated from Georgia in December, and he is now at med school at Penn in Philadelphia, and his journey to get to med school is about a year. And as I was thinking through that journey, I'm reminded that 2 years ago, he was practicing for the MCAT, and he took about a dozen practice tests, and he came up with a really good score. But then when he applied to a clearinghouse for medical schools, they said, okay, well, now you also have letters that you can submit, people that know you, that we can then turn around and give to the medical schools and see if they're interested. And so his was number one, he had to check the box of, I've taken the MCAT and I've done pretty well to get into whatever school he wanted to go to. Number two is he had developed relationships with professors and others on campus that then were willing to write letters of recommendation about him. So they became personal advocates for his brand. And then he had to know, when he went and interviewed at those medical schools, number three, how to conduct himself. And quite frankly, it's a lost art, and I was not good at it when I first went to college, and probably even when I graduated from college. I'm not sure I could sit down in a restaurant and tell you which fork to use if you had multiple ones there, or, was the bread or the water on the right side? And so some of those little things that, if you've not had that in your background, you get ready for that big interview, make sure you sit down, you read a book, you talk to somebody that knows a little bit about etiquette, how to dress. And so that's a little bit of Chip's journey. My journey, when I was leaving radio in 1986, I was getting ready to get married. I loved the radio business. I got to do a lot of fun things, but it didn't pay a whole lot and had weird hours. And so I decided I needed a real job. So in 1986, I had a friend, Marty Godfrey, that worked for Southern Bell. And I said, Marty, I really am looking for a job. And he said, well, look, I work for a great company and maybe I can get you an interview. And so he did, and the rest is history, as they say. And I don't remember, because that was 34 years ago, all of the details of how Marty knew me and put his name in front of people on my behalf. Because sometimes you're asked to do that and you really don't know that person. But what I remember was I went to church with Marty. He knew I was a person that was dependable, responsible. I showed up on time. I worked hard. And those things maybe would get me in the door to the interview, and then I could take it from there. So, some of the basics of blocking and tackling is what they've hit on. And I would say too, as well, you got to have the resume, you got to build the resume to get in the door. But once you're there, make sure that you're on time, you do what you're supposed to do, the audience, and some of those factors too.
Awesome answers. So before we go to the next question, I just wanted to let the students know that we have the Q&A box down there, and if we have time, I'll be asking some student questions at the end, so feel free to type your questions in as we go. So our next question is, what type of things would you expect to find in the portfolio of a well-rounded applicant? And Vince, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think the main thing is a couple of things is that whatever it is that you want to pursue at your college campus, pursue it with passion, okay? And because if you pursue what you're doing with passion and you get a job, you'll never work a day in your life. Secondly, the thing that you got to recognize is that where you are now as students, your college campus is the ultimate professional lab. So for me, my lab was the sports information department. I was able to produce hundreds of events over the 4 years. I had a portfolio, such as like Davia did, with many, many articles. And so I was beginning to build and pad that resume. So because the other underlying thing about doing that is you're showing a potential employer that you're a self-starter, that you have discipline, that you'll put the effort in, because that's the again, this rolling audition strategy of showing a potential employer of how you would be as an employee. Because you got to think of it, if you're hiring, you run your own business, I'm paying people basically out of my pocket. So if I'm going to make a multi-$1,000 investment with benefits and healthcare and salary and taxes and all those types of things, I got to be really, really precise in knowing how I think you're going to perform. And so, and then the other thing is, I didn't make very good grades. I was blessed that I could write, and I did well in journalism, but my resume was full of effort, and it was full of energy, and it was full of attitude, and it was full of experience. And so I was continuing to package and position myself, as a brand. But the other thing is, even if you're working your way through school and you have multiple jobs, I use the barista example. Don't just say you were a coffee server. Say you were on the front lines of consumer behavior, serving hundreds of people on the front lines of retail and consumer behavior. And so just those little few word tweaks, how you package yourself, is going to get that attention and get that flag. But it's also showing me what type of person you are. Maybe you only have a 3.0 out of a 4, but you had to work 3 jobs and you're maintaining a great grade point average, and you're showing yourself to be a great self-starter and those types of things. So again, step back and look at yourself sort of externally or an out of body as you're beginning to position your brand to put it face forward to potential employers or graduate school or medical school applications.
I would just say that, I'm reminded of a good friend of mine who's done very, very well in the business world, who once told me he would give at least an interview to a person if they had one of 3 things on their resume. Number 1, they were an Eagle Scout, they grew up on a farm, or they were a Marine, because he knew what it took to be all those things. And it really came down to effort and commitment and just endurance. And so there's a lot of things you can put on your resume that will indicate that. For me, my junior and senior years at Georgia, I did a weekly radio show at WUOG every Sunday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Climbed those steps up to the top of Memorial Hall. I think it's in the Tate Center now, but at the time it was in Memorial Hall. And so, but I did that. And I think through that, perhaps I showed on my resume, I was a person who did something, I stuck to it, and I was dependable, I was on time. And so I just wrote down some of the things that I look for as I look at somebody's resume. There's a lot of things that will indicate you are these things, but they are, number one, dependable. Number two, you know how to work with people. You know, if you're a club president, or if you are perhaps in a fraternity, sorority, or something that shows that you know how to work with people, golly, there are a lot of really smart people that don't know how to work and get along with other people, and they're not your first choice. Number three is you know how to solve problems. You know, is there something that you've done or can do and put on your resume that says, we encountered a problem, here's what I did to solve it. Number four is drive and initiative. I think Vince spoke to that. Just showing that you got some get up and go, because some jobs require you just to do that. You don't have somebody looking over your shoulder. But the last one, and maybe the most important, is I look for somebody who has given to others or is others focused. Now, there are a lot of people that put 48 nonprofits on their resume, and that just tells me they might have spent 1 or 2 meetings or 1 or 2 months at each one. They didn't really maybe do a whole lot. But if you say that you work for a nonprofit, you were a mentor, you were a big brother, big sister to somebody for 3 years, then you're showing me that you are others focused. You believe in giving to others. And that tells me something about your character. And I like to see that. So those are some of the things I would look for in a resume.
For me, I look at diversity and really how you have diversified your skill set, because, you know, you could graduate with an A average and your classmate or whoever's sitting next to you, probably not right now, but when we could sit next to each other, whoever's sitting next to you may have graduated with a C, but you both get a degree, right? So the degree, that's a given. So, but what did you do? What did you do with your time? How did you diversify your skill set? Did you take advantage of the red and black? I have clips in the red and black. And I emailed the editor and said, I'm interested in writing. I'm a grad student. They said, come on over. I just took the initiative. I looked for internships. I looked for opportunities on campus. I think Vince said it, you know, being at UGA especially, there are so many opportunities. So there really isn't a reason why anyone should leave UGA without having some type of portfolio, some type of experience, whether it's on campus or an internship, or even within your department, even showing your clips from class. So all of that shows that you have taken the initiative to really make yourself to be the best candidate, because you never want to be the okayest candidate. You want to be the best candidate. So you have to put in the work now. Also, say you are a PR major. Well, it doesn't hurt to have some type of advertising experience or social media experience, because taking advantage of the different opportunities gives you an opportunity to figure out, well, what do you like and what are you good at, but also what do you not like doing? I wanted to be an entertainment reporter for a really long time, and I got the opportunity, and I've done red carpets and done in-person interviews and phone interviews and video interviews. And I said, I don't want to do this. I figured out what I didn't like, but I had the experience. So really just take the opportunities that you have right now as college students, even though things are real different right now, still seek out those opportunities so that you can present yourself as a well-rounded candidate. The reason that I am a marketing and communications director is because I took on all of those different opportunities. I took one marketing class, but I have been in this field for a really long time now.
Great answers. So one of our last questions, what advice do you have to students who may not feel like they have anything unique to offer over other applicants?
You know, I'll take that one first, if you don't mind. Listen, we're all unique. Good gosh. You just got to find out what it is. But so many times we make the mistake of just saying, well, yeah, I'm not as good as him, I'm not as good as them. We compare ourselves. And comparison is really a detractor, and it's something that can cause you to beat yourself down to where you don't even want to go to an interview. You don't want to apply for a job. And so don't compare yourself. Just look inside yourself. I think it was John Maxwell in one of his leadership books. He said, at the intersection of your giftedness and your passion is excellence. So find out what you're good at. And as Davia said, it's not what you're okayest at, but what you're really good at. That's your giftedness. And then what do you love to do? And if you can find a job and a career where you intersect those two things, you're going to be good and you're going to love it. And so that's what I would mainly encourage people to do is, don't look at the guy next to you or the girl next to you and say, well, I wish I was like them. No, just be who you are and know yourself. Know this is what I love to do. I don't like to sit in front of a computer all day. I like to meet with people. I like to be outdoors versus indoors. I like to work with my hands. Whatever it is that you like to do, just acknowledge it, embrace it, and say, that's the way God made me. And not only that, I love to do it, and people tell me I'm pretty good at it. So that's where I'm going to go.
Davia?
It's Davia. Okay.
I'm looking at your name on the screen, Davia.
It's okay. I would say to ask yourselves, what are you not doing right now for that thought to even be in your head? And it goes back to what we were saying about taking the initiative and looking at the different opportunities and taking them. And also really try to surround yourself with people who want, or people who are in the place and positions that you want to be in. Get a mentor. You have 3 potentials looking at you right now, right? So those are the people that you need to surround yourself with, because they can help you along that way. Everyone has insecurities, but there are ways to really confirm that, I'm really good at this. Here's this opportunity, or these opportunities that I took to really confirm that I figured out what I like. I figured out what I don't like. This is why I'm the best candidate for the job. And also get your elevator speeches ready. I've hired people for years. I will likely have an internship opening for winter 2021. And one of the questions, if you make it to my interview table, is why should I hire you? You should be able to answer that. If you don't have an answer right now, that's okay. Work on it. But just make sure that you are checking all of the boxes possible to check, so that you don't feel like you don't have anything unique to offer, because you're a Grady student. I wanted to go to UGA because I knew it was one of the top journalism schools in the country, and I'm not from Georgia. So you're already unique. You're already taking the step. So get that thought out of your head, get a mentor, and get these opportunities on your resume.
Yeah, those 2 are great. I think, echo Paul. First of all, we've all been blessed. Much has been given, much is expected. So we all try to give back. So don't ever forget that, if you're talking to people like us, we were once where you were. We were students. We were climbing. I'll tell you another story about humility. I grew up in a town of 800 people, very rural Lower Alabama. I got to Auburn. It was the biggest place I'd ever been. I was very intimidated. I noticed at school that kids were haves and have-nots, and a caste system and better education, more worldly traveled. Auburn was the biggest place I'd ever been. But I figured out pretty quick a couple things. I figured out I would completely outwork everybody. So I knew that it might take me a day or two to build my success, but I was going to outwork the heck out of everybody. And then I knew that I had, I thought I was a pretty decent writer. So I'm like, I'm going to perfect that craft and all the applications of that craft. So every writing assignment that came up in sports PR, I would take it. Then I got a job as an editor at the student newspaper, the Auburn Plainsman. Then I went to the radio station WEGL, and I just continued to work on my craft. And I took the long view. To Paul's point, don't put so much pressure on yourself. It's okay. You're getting bombed. Social media, thank goodness social media wasn't around when I was coming, because you're always constantly trying to benchmark yourself against things on social media that aren't really real. Mark Zuckerberg is a unicorn, but there's 9,099,000 failures out there. So first of all, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And then, like I said, Davia is so perfect about mentors. Find yourself, and they don't even have to be live. They can be, you know, I love to mentor kids all the time. You know, kids reach out to me, and tons of kids at UGA reach out to me on LinkedIn. As I said, there's so many opportunities we want to help. We've got 60 podcasts out there right now. But one of the reasons that I put the podcast out is I want you guys to hear that we're all just like you. We've all been knocked off the saddle. We all want to help. But then here's the intangible pieces. Listen to some of these podcasts, for instance, or go to Paul's LinkedIn page, or, follow the Via's, the tweeting. Find out things that make us tick. Build that emotional connection. Build that linkage. We want to help you. Choose those insights. So if you were to listen, any of my podcasts with the president of Coke or the president of NASCAR or the commissioner of the SEC, you can figure out relationship cues and how to find and track down Commissioner Sankey. Don't ever forget a handwritten note goes a long way because it's showing us effort. It's a lost art. Everybody's rolling their eyes, text, emails, and all those types of things. But it's only as important as you make it. And all of these, there's a stair stepping into building your brand, which then is an audition to land that job. But you got about the time it takes to drive by a billboard on the interstate to make an impression on us. So you better dang sure make sure it's the correct impression. But everybody has amazing value to bring. And the other thing is, you're going to find some early bloomers on campus, but they may have peaked out at 20 years old. I can assure you that nobody at Auburn University thought I was going to amount to anything. And I didn't even know, to be honest with you. And then I got fired by the guy 6 different times in sports PR because I wanted to go play and party and play intramural football. And then I got fired from my first job in Birmingham, Alabama. So I promise you, I've tasted the dirt of getting kicked off the saddle. But everybody within yourself, I promise you, you're valuable to yourself and people who love you. And you just let that shine through as you're going through this process.
Awesome. Well, we are out of time for any other questions, but thank you so much for all our amazing panelists. I think we all learned a lot, so thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having us. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Yeah.
And War Eagle.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See ya.